Something was wrong. I stared at the pills in my hand, my heart racing. The shape was slightly different, the color a shade lighter than usual. After taking the same medication for my chronic condition for 5 years, I knew exactly what my pills should look like. "Mom," I called out, my voice shaking. "There's something wrong with my medication." My mother appeared in the doorway of my bathroom, her expression already set in that familiar mix of irritation and dismissal. Behind her, my sister Sarah lingered, a strange look flickering across her face. "Emma, not this again," Mom sighed, running her fingers through her perfectly styled hair. "You're being dramatic. Those are your regular pills from the same pharmacy we've always used." I shook my head, holding out the pills. "No, look at them. They're different. Someone's tampered with them." Sarah stepped forward, her voice dripping with concern that didn't quite reach her eyes. You're paranoid. Why would anyone mess with your medication? Maybe you're just stressed about your promotion." The promotion. Of course she'd bring that up. At 26, I'd just been made head pharmacist at Memorial Hospital, beating out Sarah's fiancé Mark for the position. The tension had been thick ever since, with Sarah making snide comments about family loyalty and how I should have stepped aside. "I know my medication," I insisted, placing the pills carefully in a small plastic bag. "I'm getting these tested." "Enough," Mom snapped. "Your sister is right. You're letting work stress make you paranoid. Sarah would never hurt you. She's your sister, for heaven's sake." Sarah's face was a perfect mask of her innocence. "I can't believe you'd even think that, Emma, after everything I've done for you during your illness." Everything she'd done. I wanted to laugh. Sarah had turned my chronic condition into her own personal martyrdom story, constantly telling people how hard it was to have a sick sister, how she had to sacrifice so much to help care for me. The truth? She'd never once attended my doctor's appointments, never picked up my prescriptions, never sat with me through the bad days. But our parents saw what they wanted to see. Perfect Sarah, the devoted sister, the selfless daughter. Sarah, who'd followed Mom into real estate, who wore the right clothes, said the right things, and never caused any waves. "I'm getting these tested," I repeated, firmer this time. "And I'm checking the pharmacy's security footage." Security footage? Sarah's voice raised an octave. "Why are you being like this?" Mom threw her hands up in exasperation. "That's it. Emma, you need to see your therapist again. This paranoia isn't healthy. Sarah loves you. She would never." "Never what, Mom?" I cut in. "Never mess with my medication. Never risk my health. Just like she never spread rumors about Mark's inappropriate behavior when he turned her down in college. Just like she never accidentally deleted my college acceptance emails because she was afraid I'd get into better schools than her." Sarah's face darkened. "You're still holding on to those lies. Mom, see how she twists everything." I grabbed my car keys, the bag with the suspicious pills secure in my pocket. "I'm going to the pharmacy, and this time your perfect daughter act isn't going to work." "Emma Marie Parker." Mom's voice followed me down the hallway. "Don't you dare cause drama in this family. Your sister." "My sister," I called back, "isn't as innocent as you think." The drive to Valley Grove Pharmacy was tense, my hands gripping the steering wheel too tightly. I'd worked there part-time during pharmacy school before landing the hospital position. The head pharmacist, Joe, had become a mentor and friend. As I pulled into the parking lot, my phone buzzed with texts from Sarah. "You're being hysterical. Mom's really upset. Why do you always have to make everything about you? Mark says you're just jealous of our happiness." I silenced my phone and walked into the pharmacy, the familiar bell chiming above the door. Joe looked up from behind the counter, his friendly smile fading as he saw my expression. "Emma, what's wrong?" I placed the bag with the pills on the counter. "Joe, I need to see the security footage from my last prescription pickup. And I need these tested." He frowned, examining the pills. "These aren't what we dispense. The shape is wrong." And he looked closer. "Emma, these aren't even the right medication. They look like common supplements, just pressed to similar size." My hands started shaking. "Someone's been switching my medication, and I think I know who." Joe's expression hardened. "Let me pull up the footage. When was your last pickup?" 3 days ago. Sarah insisted on getting it for me since she was in the area. The security footage would prove everything. But as Joe pulled up the video, neither of us was prepared for what we would see or how it would shatter my family's perfect facade forever. The security footage was crystal clear. Joe and I watched in silence as Sarah entered the pharmacy 3 days ago, her designer handbag swinging casually. She picked up my prescription, but instead of leaving, she moved to a quiet corner near the vitamin aisle. There, thinking no one was watching, she opened my prescription bottle and began methodically replacing my medications with what looked like over-the-counter supplements. "My God," Joe whispered, pausing the footage. "Emma, this is serious. She could have killed you." I felt numb. Even though I'd suspected it, seeing the proof was devastating. Joe fast-forwarded through more footage, showing Sarah making similar switches over the past month. "She's been doing this for weeks," he said, his voice tight with anger. "I'm calling the police." "Wait," I said, though everything in me screamed for justice. "I need copies of this footage first. My parents, they need to see this." Joe nodded grimly. "I'll have to report this regardless. Tampering with prescription medication is a felony. But I'll give you 24 hours. As I drove home, the USB with the footage felt heavy in my pocket. My phone had exploded with messages from my family. "Mom, your accusations are tearing this family apart." "Dad, come home now. We need to discuss your behavior." "Sarah, I'm really worried about your mental state, sis. Maybe we should consider inpatient care." That last message made my blood boil. Of course Sarah would try to paint me as mentally unstable. She'd been laying that groundwork for years, subtly suggesting to our parents that my chronic condition had affected my mind. I pulled into our driveway, noticing Sarah's car already there. Perfect. Everyone would be present for this revelation. Walking into the living room, I found them waiting. Mom and Dad on the couch, Sarah perched elegantly in the armchair, all wearing expressions of concerned disappointment. "Emma," Mom began, her voice dripping with forced patience, "we've been talking, and we're worried about—" "Save it," I interrupted, pulling out my laptop. "There's something you need to see." Sarah stood up, suddenly alert. "More paranoid accusations? Emma, you need help." "Sit down, Sarah." My voice was steel. "You'll want to be sitting for this." I connected the USB and turned the laptop so they could all see. The footage began to play. The room fell silent except for the soft audio from the security video. We watched Sarah enter the pharmacy, watched her methodically switch my medications. I played multiple clips showing different dates, different instances of the same calculated tampering. Mom's face had gone pale. Dad sat frozen, his coffee cup halfway to his mouth. Sarah's perfect mask finally cracked. That's not what it looks like," she stammered. I was trying to help. Those medications are too strong. I was replacing them with natural alternatives." "Natural alternatives?" I laughed bitterly. "I could have died, Sarah. My condition isn't something you can treat with vitamins." "Sarah," Dad's voice was barely a whisper, "tell me you didn't." "Of course she did," I said. "And this isn't the first time she's tried to hurt me. But it is the last." Mom finally found her voice. There must be some explanation. Sarah would never. "Stop it, Mom," I shouted, years of frustration boiling over. "Stop defending her. The proof is right in front of you. Your perfect daughter could have killed me and you're still trying to make excuses." Sarah's face suddenly changed, her expression turning ugly. "You took everything from me," she spat. "That promotion was supposed to be Mark's. We had plans, a future mapped out, and you ruined it. You've always been the sick one. The one everyone had to worry about, the one who got all the attention." The room fell silent again, but this time it was heavy with the weight of Sarah's confession. "Attention," I repeated quietly. "You think I wanted this condition? Wanted to spend my life managing medications and doctor's appointments. And I earned that promotion, Sarah. My illness didn't get me that job. My hard work did." Dad stood up slowly, his face ashen. "I've called the police," he said, his phone still in his hand. "They're on their way." "Daddy, no." Sarah jumped up, but Mom's hand shot out, grabbing her arm. "Don't," Mom said, her voice breaking. "Don't make this worse." For the first time in my life, I saw my sister's perfect facade completely crumble. As we waited for the police to arrive, I watched my family's carefully constructed image of normalcy shatter into a million pieces. But beneath the pain and betrayal, I felt something else, relief. Finally, the truth was out. The sound of sirens grew closer, and Sarah began to cry. Real tears this time, not the calculated ones she usually used to get her way. But as I watched her mascara run, I felt no satisfaction, no triumph. Only a deep, aching sadness for what could have been, and what was now irreparably broken. The weeks following Sarah's arrest were a blur of police statements, legal meetings, and family tension. The story made local headlines. Pharmacist discovers sister's medication tampering plot. Sarah's perfect reputation crumbled as more truths came to light. During the investigation, other disturbing facts emerged. The police found a diary in Sarah's apartment detailing her resentment towards me, plans to sabotage my career, and even notes about researching my medication's interactions. Mark, her fiancé, came forward with text messages showing she planned to blame him for the tampering if caught. I had no idea she was capable of this, Mark told the investigators, looking shaken. She kept saying Emma didn't deserve the promotion. But this is insane. My parents struggled to cope with the reality of who their perfect daughter really was. Mom spent days in bed, emerging only to attend Sarah's court appearances. Dad threw himself into work, unable to face the truth of how his favoritism had contributed to this nightmare. One evening, about a month after Sarah's arrest, Mom came to my apartment. She looked older, the perfect makeup and styled hair replaced by dark circles and gray roots. "I found these," she said, placing a box on my coffee table. "Your old medical journals, the ones where you documented your symptoms." I never read them before. I remained silent, watching as she opened one of the notebooks. "You wrote about days when Sarah told everyone you were faking sick to get attention. Days when you could barely stand, and her voice broke, I believed her over you." "You always believed her over me," I said quietly. Mom wiped her eyes. "I was so invested in the idea of having a perfect daughter that I couldn't see what she really was, or what I was doing to you." She pulled out another item from her bag, a newspaper clipping about my promotion to head pharmacist. "This should have been on our fridge, not just another thing we dismissed. I'm so sorry, Emma." It wasn't enough to erase years of hurt, but it was a start. The trial was brief but intense. Sarah pleaded guilty to medication tampering charges, faced with overwhelming evidence. Her lawyer tried to paint a picture of a stressed young woman who made a mistake, but the judge wasn't swayed. The premeditated nature of these actions shows a disturbing pattern of behavior, the judge declared. This wasn't a mistake. It was a calculated attempt to harm someone who trusted you. Sarah was sentenced to 5 years in prison with mandatory psychiatric evaluation. As they led her away, she turned to look at me one last time. The perfect mask was gone, replaced by something raw and broken. "I'm sorry," she whispered, but I couldn't tell if she was sorry for what she'd done or sorry she got caught. Life gradually found a new rhythm. The hospital board, after reviewing the case, offered me an expanded role overseeing pharmacy safety protocols. I used my experience to implement new security measures for prescription handling. Dad started attending therapy, finally confronting his role in enabling Sarah's behavior. One session, he asked me to join him. "I failed you," he admitted, his voice rough with emotion. "I was so busy defending Sarah that I never defended you. Not when you were sick, not when you needed me. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want you to know I see it now." My parents sold their house, too haunted by memories of family dinners where Sarah held court while I sat quietly managing my symptoms. They bought a smaller place, and slowly we began building a different kind of relationship, one based on truth rather than appearances. Joe, my mentor from Valley Grove Pharmacy, became a regular dinner guest, filling the role of supportive family member that Sarah never truly occupied. He helped me establish a support group for people affected by medication tampering, turning our experience into something that could help others. A year after Sarah's sentencing, I received a letter from her. The perfect handwriting was the same, but the words were different. "I spent my whole life competing with you," she wrote, "trying to be the perfect daughter because I thought that's what would make them love me more. I couldn't stand that you succeeded despite your illness, while I needed to tear you down to feel special. I'm working with my therapist now, trying to understand why I became this person. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want you to know I finally see the truth. You were never my competition. You were just my sister, and I destroyed that." I filed the letter away, not ready to respond but acknowledging the small step it represented. My condition still required daily medication. But now I filled my prescriptions at the hospital pharmacy where I worked, surrounded by colleagues who knew my story and watched out for me. Sometimes during quiet moments, I looked at old family photos and mourned for what our family could have been. But then I'd look at my life now, built on truth, strength, and genuine relationships, and realize that sometimes broken things, when rebuilt, become stronger at the mended places. My sister's betrayal had shattered our family's perfect facade, but from those pieces, we were building something real, something that could last. And that was worth more than perfection ever could be. The scalding tea dripped down my blouse as I stood frozen in my mother-in-law's pristine kitchen, the burning sensation nothing compared to the humiliation coursing through me. Margaret Bradford stood before me, her designer outfit impeccable as always, lips curled in a sneer as she watched me fumble for paper towels. "Look at you, can't even afford proper clothes," she spat, gesturing at my simple outfit. "Living in our guest house, eating our food, dragging my son down with your silly little tech business. When will you admit you're just another gold digger who got lucky with my William?" I dabbed at my shirt silently, willing myself not to react. The irony of the moment wasn't lost on me. Just 3 hours ago, I'd sat in a sleek downtown office, signing the final papers to sell AITA, my artificial intelligence startup, to one of the biggest tech companies in the country. $8 million. The number still felt surreal. But Margaret didn't know that. Nobody did, except my lawyers and the buyers. Even William, my husband, was still in the dark. I'd wanted to surprise him with the news tonight. "Nothing to say for yourself, Olivia?" Margaret's voice dripped with contempt. "Usually you have some excuse about your company making progress. What is it you supposedly do again? Playing with computers?" I straightened up, meeting her gaze. "Artificial intelligence solutions for healthcare, Margaret, as I've explained many times." She laughed, the sound sharp and cruel. "Right, and yet, you're still living in our guest house because you can't afford rent. I warned William about marrying beneath him, but did he listen? Now look, stuck with a wife who can't even contribute to household expenses." The past 2 years flashed through my mind, endless nights coding, rejection letters from investors, doubt and fear. Through it all, Margaret's constant jabs and William's unwavering support. We'd chosen to live in their guest house not out of necessity, but because William insisted we save money while I built my company. His faith in me never wavered, even when I doubted myself. "I've never taken a penny from you," I said quietly. "We pay rent for the guest house, buy our own groceries." "Pennies," she interrupted. "My son could have married Carolina Matthews. Her family owns half of Boston. Instead, he picked up some scholarship girl with delusions of being the next Steve Jobs." The burning on my chest intensified, but I remained calm. In a few hours, the press release would go live. The acquisition would be public knowledge. Everything would change. "I think I should go," I said, gathering my things. "William will be home soon." "Yes, run away. That's what you're good at. Just like your mother ran away and left you with nothing." Margaret's words hit their intended mark. She always knew exactly where to strike. I paused at the door, turning back to face her. My mother may have left, but she taught me one important thing before she did. Never let anyone make you feel small. "Get out!" Margaret shrieked, grabbing another cup of tea. "Get out of my house, you freeloading trash." I closed the door just as the second cup shattered against it, tea seeping beneath the doorframe. Walking back to the guest house, I pulled out my phone and saw the email I'd been waiting for. Press release scheduled for 9 a.m. tomorrow. Inside our cozy living room, I changed my shirt and examined the red marks blooming across my chest and neck. They would fade, but I knew tomorrow would leave more permanent marks, not on my skin, but on the careful facade Margaret Bradford had built around her perfect world. William found me there an hour later, curled up on our worn sofa with my laptop. His face darkened when he saw the burns. "Mom," he asked, kneeling beside me. When I nodded, his jaw clenched. "That's it. We're leaving. I don't care what she says about helping with the down payment on a house. We'll figure something out." I caught his hand, smiling. "Actually, honey, I need to tell you something. About the company." His eyes widened as I explained everything, The months of secret negotiations, the final sale price, the future possibilities. When I finished, he sat in stunned silence for a moment before breaking into that brilliant smile I've fallen in love with. I always knew you could do it, he whispered, pulling me close. Should we tell Mom and Dad? I shook my head, thinking of the press release scheduled for tomorrow morning. Let's wait. Some news is better delivered over breakfast. As we sat there, planning our future, I touched the tender spots on my chest where the tea had scalded me. Tomorrow, Margaret Bradford would learn exactly what kind of woman her son had married. But tonight, I had everything I needed: success on my own terms, the man I loved, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing that sometimes justice serves itself. The next morning, I took extra care getting dressed. A crisp white blazer, tailored black pants, and the one luxury I'd allowed myself last year, a pair of Christian Louboutin heels. As I applied concealer to the fading tea burns on my neck, I heard William's phone buzzing incessantly. It's starting, he said, showing me the screen filled with notifications. The press release had just gone live, and my LinkedIn profile was exploding with congratulations. TechCrunch had already picked up the story. Innovative AI acquisition. Healthcare tech startup sells for $8 million. Right on cue, the front door of the main house slammed. Margaret's shrill voice carried across the garden. William, get over here right now. I touched my husband's arm. Ready? He grinned, taking my hand. Let's give her the good news. We found Margaret in the kitchen, her perfectly manicured hands shaking as she held her iPad. Robert, my father-in-law, stood behind her, looking shell-shocked as he stared at his phone. What is this? Margaret thrust the iPad at us. Some kind of joke? Your little startup selling for $8 million? This must be fake news. I took a seat at the kitchen island, the same spot where she'd thrown tea at me yesterday. No joke, Margaret. The deal closed yesterday morning. Innovative AI is now part of MedTech Solutions. But, she sputtered, her face flushing. You live in our guest house, you wear the same clothes for years, you drive that terrible old car. It's called being practical, I replied calmly. Every spare penny went back into the company. That's how you build something valuable. Robert cleared his throat. $8 million. Congratulations, Olivia. That's incredible. Thank you, Robert. I smiled at my father-in-law. Unlike Margaret, he'd always been civil, distant, but civil. This isn't possible, Margaret insisted, her voice rising. You're nothing but a scholarship charity case. I looked up your background when William started dating you. Single mother who abandoned you, community college transfer. Mom, William's voice cut through her tirade. That's enough. You've spent years looking down on Olivia, treating her like she wasn't good enough. Well, guess what? While you were busy judging her background, she was building something extraordinary. Margaret's face contorted. She must have cheated somehow. There's no way. Actually, I interrupted, pulling out my phone. Would you like to see how? I have a presentation I gave to the MedTech board. It explains how our AI technology is revolutionizing early cancer detection. Though it might be a bit technical for you. Lots of playing with computers involved. The dig landed. Margaret's mouth snapped shut, her face turning an interesting shade of purple. Robert stepped forward, ever the businessman. The guest house. I assume you'll be moving out? He asked. Yes, William answered. We've actually had our eye on the Mitchell estate. You know, the one Mom's always talking about. The colonial on Maple Street? Margaret's head snapped up. The Mitchell's house? But that's the most expensive property in the neighborhood. I've been trying to get into their social circle for years. I know, I said sweetly. They're lovely people. We had dinner with James and Helen Mitchell last week to discuss the purchase. They're excited to have some young energy in the neighborhood. The look on Margaret's face was priceless. The Mitchells were old money, the kind of people she desperately wanted to associate with but could never quite reach. You had dinner with Helen Mitchell? She whispered, looking faint. She's an early investor in female-founded startups, I explained. We met at a tech conference last year. Lovely woman. She mentioned you've been trying to join their country club. Tough luck about the waitlist. William squeezed my hand under the table, trying not to laugh. We both knew Margaret had been trying to get into that country club for a decade. This is, Margaret seemed to be struggling for words. Karma? I suggested. Life has a funny way of working out, doesn't it? One day you're throwing tea at someone, calling them freeloading trash, and the next day. Robert's head snapped up. She did what? I pulled back my blazer slightly, showing the fading red marks. Oh yes, yesterday was quite eventful. But don't worry, Margaret. I won't be pressing charges for assault. Consider it a parting gift, along with 2 years of rent payments we've made for that guest house. Which, by the way, we'll be vacating next week. Margaret collapsed into a chair, all her carefully constructed superiority crumbling around her. Robert looked between his wife and me, realization dawning on his face. Margaret, he said slowly, what have you done? I didn't, she stammered. Save it, William cut in. We're done here. Dad, we'll send movers for our things next week. Mom, enjoy your tea. As we walked out of the kitchen, I paused at the door. Oh, and Margaret, I smiled. The next time you see me at a social event, and you will, the tech scene in Boston is quite well connected, try not to throw any beverages. Designer clothes are so hard to clean. The sound of Margaret's muffled sob followed us out of the house. As we walked back to the guest house, William pulled me close. That was brilliant, he whispered, especially the Mitchell house part. I grinned up at him. Well, the house part wasn't a lie. We really are buying it. He stopped walking. We are. Close the deal this morning. Consider it my surprise wedding anniversary gift. A bit early, but I shrugged. I figured we deserved it. His laughter echoed across the garden, probably carrying all the way to the main house, where Margaret was undoubtedly still processing how thoroughly her world had just turned upside down. Sometimes, I reflected, success isn't just about proving people wrong. It's about proving yourself right. 6 months after our confrontation in Margaret's kitchen, life had settled into a new rhythm. The Mitchell estate, our new home, felt like a sanctuary. Its sprawling gardens and sun-filled rooms were a far cry from the guest house we lived in. But more importantly, it was ours, something we'd earned together. The fallout from that morning had been spectacular. Margaret's social circle buzzed with the news, though her version differed significantly from reality. Just a misunderstanding. She'd tell anyone who'd listen. We always knew Olivia had potential. The burn marks from her tea attack had faded, but the incident had left different kinds of marks on our family dynamics. Robert, to everyone's surprise, had emerged as an unexpected ally. One evening, he showed up at our door, looking uncomfortable but determined. I let her behavior go unchecked for too long, he admitted, standing in our foyer. I knew how she treated you, but I told myself it wasn't my place to intervene. I was wrong. He handed me a small package. Inside was a photo album, pictures of William growing up, family moments I'd never seen. Margaret would never show you these, he said. But your family, you always were, even when we didn't act like it. That gesture marked the beginning of a slow healing process. Robert started visiting regularly, eager to learn about my work. He'd built his own company years ago, and we found common ground discussing business strategies and industry trends. Margaret, however, took a different approach. After her initial shock wore off, she tried to rewrite history. Suddenly, she was telling everyone how she'd always supported my entrepreneurial spirit. At social events, she tried to position herself next to me, dropping hints about her brilliant daughter-in-law to anyone within earshot. I maintained a polite distance, responding to her attempts at reconciliation with civil but firm boundaries. The memory of that scalding tea and years of subtle cruelty wasn't so easily erased. One afternoon, as I was leaving a board meeting at MedTech Solutions, I ran into her at the local coffee shop. She was alone, looking smaller somehow without her usual audience. Olivia, she called out, half rising from her seat. I've been hoping to run into you. I could have walked past. Part of me wanted to. Instead, I paused at her table. Yes, Margaret. I've been doing a lot of thinking, she said, fidgeting with her coffee cup. About how I treated you. About that day with the tea. She trailed off, looking lost. And? I prompted. I was wrong, she whispered. I was so focused on status, on what other people thought, that I couldn't see what was right in front of me. I'm sorry. I studied her face, searching for the manipulation I'd grown so accustomed to. Instead, I found something I expected, genuine regret. Thank you for saying that, I replied carefully, but trust, like respect, has to be earned. It can't be bought or manipulated into existence. She nodded, tears gathering in her eyes. I understand. I miss William, and you, The house feels so empty now. That's what happens when you let pride and prejudice drive away the people who could have been closest to you, I said, not unkindly. But life gives us chances to learn from our mistakes. What we do with those chances is up to us. I left her there, thinking about second chances and the price of pride. That evening, over dinner with William in our new home, I told him about the encounter. Do you think she means it? He asked thoughtfully. I think she's lonely, I replied. And maybe for the first time, she's realizing that success isn't just about appearances. William reached across the table, taking my hand. You're a better person than most, you know that? After everything she did. I smiled, thinking of the long journey that had brought us here. It's not about being better. It's about breaking cycles. Your mother treated me badly because she was insecure, trying to maintain an image she thought mattered. The best revenge isn't making her suffer. It's showing her there's a better way to live. The next week, we invited Robert and Margaret for dinner. It was a quiet affair, nothing like the grand social events Margaret used to orchestrate. But as we sat in our dining room, sharing a meal and cautiously rebuilding bridges, I realized something important. Success isn't just about proving people wrong or accumulating wealth. Sometimes it's about having the strength to remain open to healing, even after being hurt. It's about knowing your worth so completely that you don't need others' validation to feel secure. As I watched Margaret awkwardly but sincerely compliment the house's decor, I thought about that day 6 months ago when scalding tea and cruel words had marked more than just my skin. We'd all changed since then, some by choice, others by circumstance, but change, I was learning, wasn't always about dramatic confrontations and public victories. Sometimes it was about quiet moments of grace, about choosing to rise above past hurts while maintaining firm boundaries. It was about building something new, not from a place of revenge or resentment, but from a position of strength and self-assurance. The tea stains had long since faded from my white blouse. But the lessons remained. Success is the best revenge, but forgiveness, given wisely and with clear boundaries, can be the greatest victory of all. They just don't photograph well, Hannah. I'm thinking about our family album. My mother-in-law Diana's voice dripped with false sympathy through the phone. The Mediterranean cruise photos need to be perfect. You understand, don't you? I gripped my phone tighter, watching my daughters Emma, 12, and Sophie, 10, playing in the backyard through the kitchen window. They were practicing their soccer moves, their faces bright with joy and determination. No, Diana, I don't understand. You're uninviting my daughters from our family vacation because you don't think they're photogenic enough. Now, don't be dramatic. She sighed as if I were being unreasonable. It's just that Bella and Rose are natural models. Your girls are more athletic. Think about the family photos. We want them to be magazine-worthy. Bella and Rose, my stepdaughters from James's first marriage, were indeed photogenic. They took after their mother, a former beauty queen, with perfect blonde curls and carefully coordinated outfits. But the way Diana constantly compared them to my girls made my blood boil. The cruise tickets are already paid for, I reminded her, trying to keep my voice steady. We've been planning this for months. Emma and Sophie have been counting down the days. Oh, about that, Diana's voice took on that sickly sweet tone I'd grown to hate. I already gave their spots to my friend Margaret's daughters. They're professional child models, you know. The photos will be absolutely stunning. I stood there in shocked silence, the magnitude of her betrayal sinking in. My daughter's excitement about their first cruise, the carefully packed bags sitting by the stairs, the matching sundresses they'd chosen for formal dinners. All of it crushed by Diana's superficial cruelty. James will never agree to this, I said firmly, though doubt crept in. My husband had always struggled to stand up to his mother. James already agreed, dear. He understands the importance of family image. After all, he's running for city council next year. These photos will be perfect for his campaign. Of course, it always came back to image with Diana. Since James announced his political ambitions, she'd been obsessed with crafting the perfect family narrative. Somehow, that narrative never seemed to include my daughters. When did you discuss this with James? I demanded. Last week, at our lunch meeting. He said to tell you he's sorry, but it's for the best. The girls can stay with their father while we're gone. It's only 2 weeks. My hands trembled with anger. James had known for a week and hadn't said a word. Even now, he was letting his mother deliver the news instead of facing me himself. We'll discuss this when James gets home, I said coldly, then hung up before she could respond. I watched Emma and Sophie playing, their laughter floating through the window. How could I tell them they were being excluded from the family vacation because they weren't pretty enough for photos? The thought made me sick. My phone buzzed with a text from Diana. "Don't make this difficult, Anna. The new arrangements are already made. I've attached the suggested wardrobe colors for the rest of us. Jewel tones photographed beautifully against the Mediterranean backdrop." I opened my laptop, fury driving my fingers across the keyboard as I logged into my email. There it was, the confirmation from the cruise line showing I had booked and paid for all our tickets 3 months ago. Diana might have orchestrated this scheme, but she'd forgotten one crucial detail. James came home late that evening, quietly slipping in through the garage door like a coward. I was waiting in the kitchen, travel documents spread across the table. "When were you planning to tell me?" I asked as he tried to sneak past. He froze, then turned slowly. "Mom called you." "Yes, she did. She told me you agreed to uninvite our daughters from the family cruise because they're not photogenic enough for your campaign." "Anna, it's not like that." He ran a hand through his hair, a nervous habit. "Mom thinks." "I don't care what your mother thinks." I cut him off. "How could you agree to this without even talking to me? How could you do this to your own daughters?" "They're still my daughters, even if they're not." He trailed off, realizing his mistake too late. "Even if they're not what, James? Not pretty enough? Not good enough for your precious family photos?" "That's not fair. You know how important this campaign is. Mom has experience with these things. She knows what plays well with voters." I pulled out the cruise documents, laying them on the table. "Did your mother mention that I'm the one who booked and paid for this trip? That it was my bonus from work that funded this entire family vacation?" His face paled slightly. "She said she handled all the arrangements." "Of course she did. And I'm sure she also told you she's already given our daughters spots to her friends' children. The ones who are professional child models." The sarcasm in my voice could have cut glass. "Mom says it's already done. The new girls are expecting to go." He had the grace to look uncomfortable. "Maybe we could plan another trip, just the 4 of us." "Get out." "What?" "Get out of this kitchen. Both stay in the guest room. I can't even look at you right now." After he slunk away, I sat at the kitchen table and opened my laptop again. Diana had already posted on social media about the upcoming cruise, tagging her friend Margaret and gushing about how photogenic the whole group would be. The comments were filled with excitement about the perfect family vacation. I smiled grimly as I began typing an email to the cruise line. Diana had no idea what was coming. She thought she was protecting James's political image. She was about to learn exactly what kind of woman she was dealing with. Upstairs, I could hear Emma and Sophie chatting excitedly about the cruise, planning which books to bring for reading on the deck. My heart ached, but my resolve only strengthened. Diana had messed with the wrong mother. The next morning, I called in sick to work and drove to my best friend Olivia's house. As a professional photographer, she'd understand better than anyone the absurdity of Diana's not photogenic excuse. She said, "What?" Olivia nearly spilled her coffee when I told her. "Anna, I've photographed your girls. They're absolutely beautiful, especially when they're just being themselves." I pulled out my phone, showing her Diana's latest social media post. A carefully staged photo of Bella and Rose in matching outfits, captioned, "Can't wait for our Mediterranean cruise with these perfect angels. Hashtag blessed grandmother, hashtag perfect family." "Look at the comments," I said. Olivia scrolled through the dozens of responses, her frown deepening. Diana had replied to several, dropping hints about James's political future and how some family members understand the importance of presentation better than others. "She's building a narrative," Olivia said slowly, "setting up your girls as the ones who don't fit her perfect political family image. And James is letting her. He says we can take another trip later, just the 4 of us." The bitterness in my voice was impossible to hide, as if that makes up for publicly humiliating our daughters. "Do the girls know yet?" I shook my head. "They're at school. I have until this afternoon to figure out how to tell them they're being excluded because their grandmother thinks they're not pretty enough for family photos." Olivia's expression shifted from sympathy to determination. "Or we could show everyone exactly what they're missing." She opened her photography portfolio on her laptop, scrolling until she found what she was looking for. A series of candid shots she'd taken at Emma's soccer championship last month. My daughter mid-kick, her face intense with concentration. Sophie cheering from the sidelines, pure joy radiating from her smile. These are what real family moments look like, Olivia said, not Diana's staged perfection. An idea started forming in my mind. The cruise line still has me listed as the primary contact for our booking. Diana doesn't know that. What are you thinking? I pulled out my own laptop, logging into my email. First, I'm going to forward you some interesting exchanges I've had with Diana over the past year. Then, I'm going to show you the real reason she's so obsessed with these cruise photos. The emails painted a clear picture. Diana's increasingly controlling behavior, her constant criticism of my daughter's appearance, her thinly veiled suggestions that they should try to be more like their stepsisters. But the real smoking gun was buried in her social media messages to her friend Margaret. Look at this, I said, showing Olivia their private exchange. She's planning to use these cruise photos for James's campaign without telling us. She's already promised the local newspaper an exclusive feature about the perfect political family. Without your permission to use photos of your minor children. Olivia's professional instincts kicked in. That's not just unethical, it's illegal. Exactly. I started typing an email to the cruise line. And I think it's time everyone saw the real story behind Diana's perfect family facade. By the time I picked up the girls from school, everything was in motion. Emma noticed something was wrong as soon as she got in the car. Mom, is everything okay? You look worried. I took a deep breath. Girls, we need to talk about the cruise. Over ice cream, because some conversations need ice cream. I told them a carefully edited version of the truth. Not that they weren't pretty enough, but that their grandmother had made different arrangements without consulting us. But we already packed. Sophie's lower lip trembled. I was going to show Bella and Rose how to play cards on the deck, like in the movies. I know, sweetheart. I squeezed her hand. But here's the thing, sometimes when people show you who they really are, you have to decide how to respond. And we're going to respond by showing them exactly what they're missing. How? Emma asked, her natural determination shining through. I smiled. How do you girls feel about a little photo shoot with Aunt Olivia? The next few days passed in a blur of activity, while Diana posted increasingly smug updates about the upcoming perfect family vacation. I set my own plans in motion. James continued sleeping in the guest room, making weak attempts at apologizing while still defending his mother's decisions. Mom says the girls will thank us when they're older, he tried one morning. They won't want these photos following them around when they're teenagers. I looked at him coolly. You keep saying Mom says as if that justifies everything. When are you going to start thinking for yourself? The day before the cruise, Diana hosted a bon voyage dinner at her house. I declined to attend, citing work commitments. Instead, I met with Olivia to finalize our project, a stunning photo series capturing my daughters in a natural element. Emma scoring the winning goal, Sophie performing at her piano recital, both girls laughing together in the backyard. Real moments, real beauty, real family. These are perfect, Olivia said as we reviewed the final selections. Are you sure you want to wait until they're already on the cruise? I nodded, thinking of Diana's last text. Anna, dear, do try to control your attitude about this. James needs a supportive wife right now, not someone stirring up drama. I've already announced the full cruise attendance list to my social circle. Oh, I know exactly when these need to go public, I said, scheduling the posts for the perfect moment. Let them get settled on board first. Let Diana start posting her perfectly staged photos. She's not going to know what hit her, is she? No, I smiled, looking at a particularly beautiful shot of my daughters. But she's about to learn that real family photos don't need professional models or perfect poses. They just need real love. My phone buzzed with another message from Diana. Final itinerary attached. I've arranged for a professional photographer to meet us at every port. Margaret's girls know exactly how to pose. This will be exactly the image boost James' campaign needs. I closed my laptop, a sense of calm settling over me. Diana thought she was crafting the perfect political narrative. She had no idea she was about to become the villain in a very different story. The first photos from the cruise appeared on Diana's social media exactly as I expected. Her carefully curated shots showed Bella, Rose, and Margaret's daughters posed perfectly against the Mediterranean sunset. Making memories with our beautiful family. #blessed vacation, #perfect family. I waited until they were 2 days into the cruise before making my move. First, I emailed the cruise line's corporate office, copying their legal department. The response was swift and exactly what I'd hoped for. Then, I gave Olivia the signal. She posted our photo series on her professional photography page. Real beauty, real family, a special project. The images of Emma and Sophie, caught in moments of genuine joy and achievement, were breathtaking. Each photo came with a caption explaining the real story behind it. The championships, the recitals, the everyday moments of sisterly love. But the final slide was the knockout punch. Screenshots of Diana's messages about using the cruise photos for political campaigning without parental consent, alongside her cruel comments about my daughters not being photogenic enough. This series is dedicated to every child who's been told they're not pretty enough for someone else's perfect family picture, Olivia wrote. The post went viral within hours. My phone exploded with notifications as local parents began sharing the story. How could anyone exclude these beautiful girls? What kind of grandmother does this? Isn't this the mother-in-law of that city council candidate? Diana's first panicked call came at dinner time. I let it go to voicemail. Anna, what have you done? People are attacking me online. You need to tell your friend to take those photos down immediately. Think about James's campaign. The second call came from James. Mom's hysterical. The cruise photographer just canceled on us. Says he doesn't want to be associated with this kind of discrimination. Please, can't you fix this? I texted back a single screenshot, the email from the cruise line's corporate office informing Diana that using their services to discriminate against family members violated their policies. They'd be happy to refund the entire cruise cost to me as the original booking holder. You didn't, James texted back. I did. Check your email. I'd forwarded him everything, every cruel message from his mother, every manipulative comment about our daughters, every scheming conversation with Margaret about using the cruise photos for his campaign. Those were private conversations, Diana wailed in her next voicemail. You had no right. But the real bombshell dropped when the local newspaper, the same one Diana had promised an exclusive to, ran the story instead. City council candidate's family faces backlash over alleged discrimination. James called again, his voice shaking. My campaign manager just quit. He says this kind of family drama is political suicide. Maybe you should have thought about that before letting your mother exclude your daughters for not being pretty enough for her photos. The cruise line's public statement was the final nail in the coffin. We celebrate families of all kinds and do not condone any form of discrimination. We have issued a full refund to the original booking party and extend our sincere apologies to the excluded family members. Diana's carefully crafted image was shattering. Her social circle, once so quick to praise her perfect family photos, now shared Olivia's photo series instead. These are what real family memories look like, they commented. Natural beauty over staged perfection. I gathered Emma and Sophie in our backyard that evening. How would you girls like to take our own trip? The cruise refund is more than enough for a wonderful adventure. Can we go somewhere fun? Sophie asked. Where we can just be ourselves. That's the only way I ever want you to be, I assured her. Emma hugged me tight. Thanks for standing up for us, Mom. James moved back to his mother's house the next day, still torn between defending Diana's actions and facing the consequences of his weakness. His political dreams were effectively over, at least for now. Diana's final message came through email. I hope you're happy. You've ruined everything. James's campaign is finished. My friends won't return my calls. And these horrible photos of your daughters are everywhere. Though I must admit, they do capture something special. Not that I'll ever say that publicly. I replied with just one line. Next time, remember that real family love doesn't need perfect photos, it just needs real heart. The girls and I did take our trip to a beautiful beach where they could play soccer in the sand, build messy sandcastles, and take goofy selfies without worrying about being photogenic enough. Olivia came too, capturing more genuine moments of joy and laughter. Diana still posts her perfect posed photos on social media, but her audience has dwindled. The last time I checked, her most recent picture of Bella and Rose had only 3 likes. Meanwhile, Emma's soccer team photos went viral again, this time because the girls celebrated their championship win by diving face first into a mud puddle, grinning from ear to ear with pure, unphotogenic joy. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even, It's about showing the world that real beauty doesn't need perfect staging. It just needs to be real. I stared at my phone in disbelief as messages from confused parents started flooding in. Is Emma and Ethan's party canceled? Just got a text saying it's off. Hey, your NIL just called about the twins' party being canceled. Everything okay? Strange message about the party. Hope everything's all right. My hands trembled as I dialed my mother-in-law's number. Barbara answered on the second ring, her voice dripping with satisfaction. Oh, Jessica, I was just about to call you. Barbara, why are parents telling me you canceled the twins' birthday party? I kept my voice steady despite the rage building inside me. My 8-year-olds have been looking forward to this celebration for months. Well, dear, she said with fake sweetness, I thought it was obvious. Sarah's wedding is this month. We can't have other celebrations overshadowing her special time. I'm sure you understand. I gripped the kitchen counter, knuckles white. The twins' birthday party is 2 weeks before Sarah's wedding. It's a children's party at a pizza place. How could that possibly overshadow anything? Jessica, Barbara's tone turned cold. My daughter has dreamed of a perfect June wedding her entire life. Having other events this month will take attention away from her. Besides, the twins can celebrate next month. I thought about Emma and Ethan, who had helped me hand-deliver invitations to their classmates, who had spent hours planning their party games, who had been counting down the days on their calendar. The party is happening, Barbara. You had no right. I've already called everyone, she cut in. The venue, too. I told them there was a family emergency. It's done. Sarah deserves a perfect wedding month. My mind raced. The twins would be devastated. They'd been talking nonstop about celebrating with their friends, especially since last year's party had been canceled due to Ethan's pneumonia. Barbara knew this. She'd been there through his hospital stay, pretending to be the caring grandmother while making snide comments about my parenting. Mom? Emma's voice called from the doorway. She and Ethan stood there in their matching birthday squad shirts we'd picked out for party prep. We finished blowing up the balloons for tomorrow. I forced a smile, mouthing 1 minute to them before turning away. Barbara, you listen to me. I don't care about Sarah's perfect month. You had no right to cancel my children's party. The guests will be there tomorrow at 2 p.m. as planned. The venue's been canceled, Barbara said smugly. Good luck finding somewhere to host 20 children on less than 24 hours' notice. Now, about Sarah's bridal shower next week. I hung up, my mind already working on solutions. This wasn't the first time Barbara had tried to sabotage something involving the twins. Last Christmas, she'd accidentally told them Santa's gifts were hidden in our closet. On their first day of school, she tried to convince them they weren't ready, that they should wait another year so they wouldn't overshadow their cousin's school debut. But this was a new low. Mom, Ethan's voice wavered. Is something wrong with the party? I turned to face my children. Emma was clutching the balloon pump, and Ethan held a half-inflated blue balloon. Their excited smiles had been replaced with worry. They were too smart, too observant. They'd learned to read tension in the air after years of Barbara's subtle manipulations. Your grandmother. I started, then stopped. How do you tell 8-year-olds that their grandmother canceled their birthday party because their aunt's wedding was more important? My phone buzzed again. Another parent asking about the cancellation. That's when an idea struck me. These weren't just party guests. They were parents from our close-knit community. Parents who'd watched the twins grow up, who'd helped during Ethan's hospital stay, who'd celebrated every milestone with us. Everything's going to be fine, I told the twins, and for the first time since Barbara's call, I believed it. I need to make some calls, but tomorrow's party will be even better than we planned. I sent a quick message to our parent group. Unexpected venue issue. Party still on tomorrow. New location TBA. Please stand by. Then I called Susan, whose daughter Amy was in Emma's class. Susan owned a massive property just outside town, complete with a converted barn they used for community events. Barbara did what? Susan's voice rose in disbelief as I explained the situation. That woman, Jessica, used the barn. We'll make it work. I'll call the mom squad. We'll have it ready by tomorrow. Tears of relief stung my eyes. Susan, are you sure? Absolutely. That woman's had it out for those kids since day one. Remember when she tried to convince the school they needed separate classes because twins shouldn't be codependent? I did remember. Just like I remembered every other time Barbara had tried to minimize or control my children's experiences. Always with a smile. Always with some excuse about what was best for them. Mom. Emma tugged at my sleeve. Can we still have our party? I pulled both twins into a hug. Yes, sweethearts. And it's going to be amazing. How do you feel about having it in Miss Susan's big barn instead of the pizza place? Their eyes lit up. The barn with the tire swing? Ethan asked. And the hayloft? Emma added. The very same. They high-fived each other, previous worry forgotten in their excitement. I watched them race off to call their best friends about the venue change, their enthusiasm contagious. My phone buzzed again. Barbara. A text this time. Jessica, I know you're upset, but you need to think about Sarah's feelings. This is her special month. The twins will understand when they're older. I left her message unread and dialed my husband, Mark. He was away at a conference but needed to know what his mother had done. She what? Mark's voice cracked. Mom canceled. I'll call her right now. No, I said firmly. Right now, I need you to call the pizza place. Get our deposit back if you can. Then call your sister. I want to know if she's part of this. I could hear Mark's deep sigh. Jess, I'm so sorry. I'll handle it. Send me pictures tomorrow. Of course. I paused. Mark? When you get back, we need to talk about your mother's access to the kids. This can't happen again. I know, he said quietly. I know. After hanging up, I joined our community's group chat, which was already buzzing with plans for tomorrow. Parents offering to bring extra decorations, someone knew a face painter who could come last minute, another had a cotton candy machine. Barbara thought she could ruin my children's birthday. Instead, she reminded me what real family looks like, not someone who tries to dim your light, but people who help you shine brighter. Looking at the twins' excited faces as they planned their barn party, I knew tomorrow would be unforgettable. Not because of Barbara's attempt to cancel it, but because of all the love that would make it happen. But first, I had some calls to make. Starting with Sarah. It was time to find out just how much her perfect wedding month meant to her, and whether she knew what her mother had done in her name. Sarah's response wasn't what I expected. She did what? My sister-in-law's voice cracked through the phone. Jessica, I swear I had no idea. Mom told me you decided to postpone the twins' party because Ethan wasn't feeling well. I closed my eyes, processing this new information. Of course, Barbara had lied to everyone, crafting different stories to suit her narrative. So you didn't ask her to clear your wedding month of other celebrations? God, no. Sarah sounded horrified. I'm not that kind of bride. Mom's been intense about the wedding. Yesterday, she tried to uninvite my college roommate because her dress might clash with the color scheme. I almost laughed at the absurdity. Almost. She's called every parent from the twins class, Sarah. Told them there was a family emergency. She even canceled our deposit at the venue. I'll call her right now, Sarah said firmly. This is insane. Emma and Ethan are 8, for heaven's sake. Their birthday party isn't taking anything away from my wedding. Wait, I said, an idea forming. Don't call her yet. She doesn't know about the new venue. Let's see what she does when she shows up tomorrow to make sure the party's really canceled. Sarah was quiet for a moment. Mom's going to lose it when she realizes she can't control everything. Count me in. What time should I arrive to help set up? After hanging up, I checked the group chat. Our community had mobilized in full force. Susan's barn was being transformed into a party paradise. Someone's teenager had made a TikTok-inspired balloon arch. Another parent was bringing their karaoke machine. The pizza place, after hearing what happened, offered to deliver to the new venue at a discount. I was responding to last-minute coordination messages when Barbara's number flashed on my screen again. This time I answered. Jessica, she started, her voice sickly sweet. I've been thinking about the twins. How about a nice family dinner instead of a party? Much more appropriate during wedding season. I'll even make my special casserole. The same casserole she brought to the hospital when Ethan was sick, using his illness to criticize my parenting between bites. No thank you, Barbara. The twins are looking forward to celebrating with their friends. But I've already canceled everything. Her voice rose slightly. You're being ridiculous. Sarah's wedding has nothing to do with my children's birthday. I cut in. Goodbye, Barbara. I blocked her number before she could respond. Then I went to check on the twins, who were busy making new decorations with their art supplies. Emma looked up from her glitter-covered creation. "Mom, is Grandma coming to our party?" My heart clenched. How do you explain to children that their grandmother prioritizes control over their happiness? "She might stop by, sweetheart. But let's focus on making this the best party ever, okay?" The next morning was a flurry of activity. Susan's barn had been transformed overnight. Fairy lights twinkled from the rafters. Tables were set up with games and craft stations. The tire swing had been decorated with streamers, and someone had even brought a small bouncy castle. Parents and kids started arriving early, everyone pitching in to help with final preparations. The energy was infectious. This wasn't just a birthday party anymore. It was a community statement about standing together. The fallout from the twins' birthday party lasted far longer than Barbara's hasty retreat. In the weeks that followed, her carefully crafted image as the doting grandmother crumbled completely. Parents from the twins' schools shared stories of her past manipulations, times she'd interfered with playdates, spread rumors about other children to make her grandkids look better, and even tried to influence teacher assignments. "I can't believe we didn't see it sooner," Susan told me over coffee a week after the party. "She always played the devoted grandmother role so well." Mark returned from his conference 2 days after the party, and our conversation about his mother was long overdue. "I found these," he said, placing a stack of letters on our kitchen table. They were from his childhood, correspondence between Barbara and his school, attempting to control every aspect of his and Sarah's lives. "She's always been like this," he admitted, running a hand through his hair. I thought she changed. Or maybe I didn't want to see it happening to our kids." The twins, surprisingly, adapted better than anyone expected. "Grandma needs a timeout," Ethan declared matter-of-factly. "Like when I pushed Emma in kindergarten and had to think about being nice." Emma nodded sagely. "She's not very good at sharing attention." Their insight made me laugh and cry at the same time. Sarah's wedding was another story entirely. Barbara's behavior at the twins' party had consequences she hadn't anticipated. Half the guests had heard about her attempt to protect the wedding month by canceling a children's birthday party. Her reputation in our close-knit community was in tatters. "She's still trying to control everything," Sarah confided during her final dress fitting. "But now people see through it. Yesterday, she tried to change the seating arrangement for the 4th time, and my future mother-in-law just laughed and said, 'Oh, is this like the birthday party situation?'" Barbara's attempts to regain control became increasingly desperate. She sent flying monkeys, distant relatives, and old family friends to plead her case. "She's just traditional," they'd say. "She means well. Family should forgive." But we'd learned our lesson about enabling her behavior. The Sunday before Sarah's wedding, Barbara made one last attempt to reassert her authority. She showed up at our door, unannounced, clutching a photo album. "I thought the twins might like to see pictures from when their daddy was little," she said, trying to step inside. "And maybe we could discuss their role in a wedding." "No, Barbara," I said firmly, blocking the doorway. "The twins are happy with their roles as flower girl and ring bearer. The rehearsal schedule is set, and if you try to manipulate anything else, you'll be sitting in the back row, if you're invited at all." Her face crumpled in practiced tears. "My own grandchildren, my daughter's wedding. How can you be so cruel?" "Cruel?" I laughed. "Cruel is trying to ruin an 8-year-old's birthday. Cruel is lying to everyone to get your way. Cruel is making your grandchildren feel like their joy is less important than your control." She left in tears, but I felt no guilt. The twins watched from the window, waving goodbye to their grandmother with a wisdom beyond their years. The wedding itself was beautiful and notably drama-free. Barbara, properly chastened and closely watched, stayed in her seat and kept her comments to herself. The twins performed their roles perfectly, and Sarah got her perfect wedding day, not because of her mother's controlling behavior, but despite it. During the reception, I watched Emma and Ethan dancing with their aunt, their laughter pure and uninhibited. Barbara sat at her table, alone despite the crowded room, watching the joy she tried so hard to control unfold without her input. "You know what's funny?" Sarah said, joining me at my table. "Mom was so worried about a children's party overshadowing my wedding. But if she hadn't tried to cancel it, most people wouldn't even remember when it happened. Her need for control made it unforgettable." 6 months later, our family dynamics had shifted permanently. Barbara's access to the twins was limited and supervised. She complained about it constantly, but her threats and tears no longer held power over us. The twins thrived in their new boundary-protected environment. Their 9th birthday approached, and this time, they made the guest list themselves. Barbara wasn't on it. "Is that okay?" Emma asked me, worried about being unkind. "Sometimes," I told her, "it's braver to protect your peace than to give someone another chance to disturb it." She nodded, understanding in her young way that family isn't just about blood. It's about the people who celebrate your joy instead of trying to control it. The morning of their 9th birthday party, a science-themed celebration in Susan's barn again, I found a letter from Barbara in our mailbox. Inside was a check and a note. For the party. I know now that I was wrong. I ripped up both and threw them away. Our children's happiness wasn't for sale, and Barbara's attempts to buy her way back into control wouldn't work anymore. Watching the twins blow out their candles that afternoon, surrounded by genuine love and support, I knew we'd given them something more valuable than a perfect party. We'd shown them that they had the right to shine, even when others tried to dim their light. And that was worth more than all of Barbara's perfect plans combined.